Slim Shady LP by Eminem. The Slim Shady LP is the major label debut of Eminem. The Slim Shady alter ego came from the disappointment of his debut album, Infinite. A mixtape would eventually be placed in the hands of Dr. Dre, and Eminem's life changed forever. 20 years later, how do we view the album? Here's our honest review of the Slim Shady LP by Eminem.
The Slim Shady LP.
Yeah.
You were in Detroit, so.
Yo, I was not in
You
Detroit.
were in Michigan.
I was
You
in
were in
Michigan.
You were in Michigan.
Yes, born and raised in Michigan.
So this should have been bumping.
No, bruh. It wasn't bumping. You know why?
Because your mom was like, nah.
Nah, exactly.
A lot of people's mom was like, nah. Well, lucky for me, my parents really didn't pay much attention to what I was listening to. So, you know what? I was working at Hardee's when this album came out, making $5.25 an hour. That was minimum wage. So I know, right? That's bad.
Dang.
That's bad.
That's bad.
You work 40 hours to get like a $300 paycheck. Like, yeah, that's depressing, right?
Woo.
Anyway, one of my white friends came to me and he was like a hip hop head.
Okay.
He was just like, "Yo, there's this white rapper," and I'm like, "Nah, I'm not listening to it." And he's just like, "Nah, bro, dude is nice. He signed Dr. Dre. He nice." I'm like, "He nice." I was like, "Who is it?" Eminem. I'm like, that my name is bullshit. He's like, "Nah, you got to hear the real version, and that's the edited version." He gave it. He let me borrow it. I went to the store and bought it the next day.
Damn.
So that's how I learned about Eminem. You know, this album artwork. I always thought this album artwork was actually really dope. I feel like this album artwork is attached to emotion to him, how he was feeling at the time. It ties in 100% to the Just the Two of Us. What is it called? Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde, 97.
Yeah, it ties 100% into that song, the way the album artwork is designed. But I always thought it was dope. The little bluish purple, hue they got over top of the whole thing. Yeah. The Crayola colored name for Slim Shady. I always loved this album artwork.
Yeah, it's very fitting. Fits the track, like you said, very well. But just the overall, I guess you want to say, mood of the album. It's kind of dark, and everything like that. So it fit the theme very well.
The flow of this project, man. If you've heard of Eminem, and this time I'm actually talking from the aspect of somebody that's heard this album a million times. When you actually listen to this album, it follows an Eminem formula. Like, he usually has an intro. The first song is him playing around. He gets a little bit more serious at some point, usually around, depending on what album you start at. Usually the serious songs come, he kind of bounces back and forth between serious and joking. But here you got like a couple of joking songs right off the bat. And I remember the Source magazine giving it 2.5 mics.
Really?
Out of 5. Yeah, he was pretty mad. I mean, he said it on As the World Turns, dope as fuck when we only get a 2 in the Source. Like, that was true. They gave him a 2
for
mics.
this album.
For this album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it follows the Eminem formula.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely is a playful, showy type of, with all the skits and everything like that. And it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, at the time, brave, if I would say. It was just rash and brave, and he didn't care about what anybody thought about him.
Highlights. I'm a little biased. Just because, like I said, I listened to this album so much. But highlights for this, first of all, I love the way he always would start the joints with the public service announcements. Even on the D12 albums, they were always funny to me. It kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. Guilty Conscious is crazy. Like, when I first, that beat, Dr. Dre laced the beat. He gave him the dope beat, the dope idea of them kind of being like the angel and the devil on somebody's shoulder. Yeah. I love that joint. If I Had, man, I love that song. Okay. When I listened to it again on Monday, I still knew it word for word. And I haven't listened to that song in forever. Wow. I was just like, damn, I still know the whole song. And I feel it because at some point in my life, I felt like that. You know what I'm saying? So I still fuck with that song heavy. 97 Bonnie and Clyde is just super dope. Him kind of like having his daughter help him bury his mom. But the way he's doing it, like, he's making it sound super playful, and it's super dope. Role Model is like where Eminem showed on this joint, like one of the joints where he showed, like, look, man, I can rap for real. Like, don't play with me. Yeah. Like, he kind of, I always loved the line, I'm about as Norman Bates with the form and the traits of premature birth that was 4 minutes late. Like, that is crazy. Ridiculous bars right there. Rock Bottom. I love Rock Bottom. Like, that joint, it's like, I don't know. Like, if you listen to the hook, the words in that hook are so perfect. That explains Rock Bottom 100%. Yeah. There is no better explanation for somebody being at rock bottom than what he said in that joint. When this life makes you mad enough to steal, you want kill, you want something bad enough to steal. When you feel like you've had it up to here because you're mad enough to scream, but you're sad enough to tear. Yeah, that shit is poetry. Straight poetry is sick. I never will hate that song. I love that song. Just Don't Give a Fuck. I just don't give a fuck most of the time. Obviously, I love that song. As the World Turns, I love As the World Turns. Like, to me, that was always one of the funniest stories he ever told. Yeah. Like, when he was talking about, you know, just trying to buy me some time, then I remember this magic trick. Dun, 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 go, gadget dick. Like, that shit always made me, like, see, it makes you laugh because it's stupid as hell, but it's dope. Bad Meets Evil featuring Royce the 5'9". Anytime them dudes goes back and forth, like, it makes me want to bang the table. Yeah. Like, them two dudes are like one of the greatest duos ever. Yeah. I think if you put them two together, they can out-rap Outkast. Yeah, I said it. And Still Don't Give a Fuck. Like I said, I barely ever give a fuck. So, of course, I love Still Don't Give a Fuck. He actually went in more on this one than he did the first one.
Because he still didn't give a fuck?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as I stated, I was like 11 when this came out, so yeah, I really wasn't supposed to be listening to this.
So you had it.
No, see.
So you was what he said, like, when little kids had this tape from their parents, like bad report cards.
This thing, like, I wasn't even like, I didn't even care about Eminem. Like, I remember everybody in school like, oh, Eminem this, Eminem that. I really wasn't a fan, but I did become interested in all his music videos because it was always wild, always crazy and entertaining. But I don't think I really sat down and listened to Eminem until probably like 2002, 2003. But as far as, you know, this album, going back and hearing it, I feel like this was just very, I want to say for the time, if I put myself in that time zone, this was just very new and fresh as a hip hop album. It was somebody being playful and jokeful, like deliberately being dark and everything like that. So I went in with it with that kind of mindset, even though at the time, my age, I was not really heavily on this subject material. I think I didn't even want to listen to this type of stuff. But hearing songs like Guilty Conscience, that was one of the songs I did listen to. And I always appreciated the fact of how he was telling the story in a playful manner, but making it sound really dope with rhymes. And just him and Dr. Dre going back and forth made it really interesting. I never really seen anything in rap like that at the time. So I thought that was really dope. If I liked the skit before and how he was like, oh, I need you to tone it down a little bit. Because he kind of toned it down, but in his own kind of manner. So I thought that was pretty dope. 97 Bonnie and Clyde, though. I remember headlines about that song, about how he was talking about, you know, wanting to murder his wife and everything.
Your mama says she wants to show us how far she can float.
And, you know, I think that was one of the times where I was just like, yo, should I really be listening to Eminem like that? Because, you know, I was always, during that time, I was very selective in my music. Like, I was sheltered. I'll just say that. I was very selective in my music.
You was listening to that Kurt Franklin.
You facts. So, you know, I was very sheltered with that. But now listen to it now. As dark as it is, it came off as very creative, like in the manner of like airing out your frustrations. And if you can appreciate the song in that manner and not take it literal, like he's just really deliberately want to kill somebody, I think you will understand the artistry in that song and what makes it great. Role Model I thought was pretty cool because he was kind of playing off the fact of, you know, you shouldn't listen to Eminem because of this and this and that. And he was just like deliberately telling you, like, you know, don't listen to me if you think that, you know, something's going to happen along down the line. Rock Bottom, yo, I feel like that song, I ditto everything Dame said, man. I just really love the orchestration of that song and how it was put together. Just Don't Give a Fuck. Sometimes you just don't give a fuck, man. It's just what it is. Soap, I thought, was another dope skit to lead into As the World Turns.
Him and Royce are hilarious.
Yeah, they really are.
Love. What do you know of love?
I'm Shady, I thought was really, really dope just because it just laid out the fact of who he was at the time and who he was set out to be. Bad Meets Evil. Man, him and Royce is just like that, man. That's all I can say. Just the way they play off of each other and everything like that. I actually remember going back to listen to that when Bad Meets Evil 2 came out because I was just like, what is this, a sequel and everything? So I heard this previously and I was just like, yo, I always thought this song was dope. And Still Don't Give a Fuck is self-explanatory. I thought it was a perfect way to go out with the album, and I thought it really, centered everything around what Eminem was trying to get across.
Lowlights. I'm gonna make a lot of hip hop purists mad about this because a lot of hip hop purists don't like a lot of songs on this album. Okay. But the only beef I have with this project really is Brain Damage. And what it is, and the thing is it's not the lyrics. Like it's a couple of the more playful lyrics in the last verse. It just seemed like he kind of like lost track of, like, just ran the joke a little bit too long in essence, if you get what I'm saying. Gotcha. But the songs that I didn't mention, like Come On Everybody, like I love the way he kind of took like that type of beat and rode the vibe to it. Like Asher Roth technically tried to steal that vibe when he put his album out with the My Fault and Come On Everybody, just without the jokes.
Think about that.
Asher Roth's whole career was built off of that sound. Like you said, I'm Shady. Like all the songs I didn't mention, I love them songs. But if I had to say there's a low light on this project, it's definitely Brain Damage. To me, that's the only song I'd take off because I'm Shady works too, because it's a song where he's being serious and joking at the same time. Yeah. And I feel like that's needed for Eminem at times because everybody takes him literal.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my lowlights, just Brain Damage, just because I feel like after Guilty Conscience, it kind of toned it down a little bit because Guilty Conscience was just up there, and then Brain Damage kind of took it back down, but it came back what I had, if I had. And other than that, I mean, I really didn't have too much lowlights to complain about. I mean, I could say the production on some of them was like okay and everything compared to others on the album, but for the most part, I think he delivered that was something unique for his time and everything like that, and it stood out completely.
Final thoughts, man. Look, I think Eminem is one of the greatest of all time. Do I feel like this is Eminem's best album? No, I do not, but I do think it is actually really dope.
The lyrics didn't go over your head?
No.
As they say, now?
No. Like, Eminem now, his brain thinks so complex with his lyrics compared to back then. Like, I don't feel like there's a line on this song, on this whole album that I don't get. Right. Because, like, I've dissected this joint since 1999 for probably like 10 years straight. And it was just listening to like I said, I could recite almost every song word for word, and I'm like, man, I haven't turned on this album in so long. It's crazy that I still know all of these words. It's amazing. But I don't want Eminem to go back to the sound ever again, because it's like, as like being a mature adult now, listening to it, it's like some of the stuff's kind of like, because you can't tell a young person to go like a young, like protesty, set like anybody that's into like all of the more recent things, like you can't send what is the damn sexual assault group? Me Too. You can't send a Me Too movementer to listen to this album. No. Like that's born in the last like 15 years and say, hey, go listen to this album, because they're gonna just be like, oh, that was wrong. Well, it was different back then. Everybody knew. Even like now, it's not even okay to joke about that stuff. No. Eminem was joking about everything. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I think this joint is mad dope.
Yeah, I feel like, this album was great for its time just because it gave somebody a platform to air out their frustration in an artistry type of way. And I mean, there was a lot of controversy, of course, but at the same time, you gotta compliment the man for being honest about his life, honest about his feelings, because he could have put that energy somewhere else. And I think that's what I got from the most of it, that he was trying to put his energy into something where he can air it out rather than doing something rash and, just go somewhere and just be like, just frustrated and super fucked up with life. So in that essence, that's what I take it as. It was just something. It definitely couldn't work right now. But as far as a time where music was like really gradually building and then hip hop was taking another stride forward, I feel like this was part of that, you know, ever-growing movement of hip-hop.
Final grade. I get this joint a check. I love this album.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't like it. The Source gave it 2.5 mics. I thought it was tripping back then. I still think it's tripping now. I wonder if they had to redo it. Would they give it higher?
Of course they would.
Yeah,
because
they
they'll
probably
be
would
like,
have gave
oh,
it.
we listened to one
If
of the
we're
greatest
going off
albums.
the Source grading system, I'd give it 4 mics.
Okay.
That's just me. I like this album that much, and I just feel like Eminem had put something down here that's somewhat timeless. I'm not saying it's a classic, but it definitely, like, emotionally stands the test of time. And anybody that's kind of like in a low point of their life at any point, they can listen to this album and they'll feel a lot of the songs.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not in any of those times anymore, but I still feel them songs. Like, you'd never forget like that
served
feeling.
its purpose for that
So
time.
yeah, so it was definitely dope, and I really appreciate this album that Eminem had put out for his debut, major label debut.
Yeah, man, I give it a check. I feel like, you know, it's always interesting to go back and listen to how an artist started, so you can see how he's progressed and how he's grown. And, you know, even if I have been somewhat critical about Eminem's latest albums, I feel like this was a great, you know, major label debut, because it started with everything we know about Eminem and love. And I don't want him to go back to this, you know, everybody say they want the old Slim Shady to come back and everything. I don't want that. You know, I feel like, you know, this served its purpose, and every artist is about growth. So I love what Eminem is doing and how he keeps constantly growing. And yeah, you know, just take time to listen to it if you haven't heard it. Go in with a very open mind.
You have to.
Very.